no one could have imagined our banking industry would develop as rapidly as it is today. Some of the Malaysian banks have transformed into regional champions. And we have a telco, which is a major player in the region. Our homegrown companies are now household names in the region, handling mega projects all over the region. Today, our government and companies have transformed themselves, moving from average to excellence, creating more regional champions and companies with best practices in the region. This is a tribute to GLCs. Hello, I'm Rosmani Zamdali and welcome to Tribute to GLCs, a show where we will be showcasing government-linked companies and their contribution to Malaysians in general. Now, the GLCs have just graduated from a 10-year GLC transformation program. Let's take a look at their achievements and contributions to the nation. To improve the performance of GLCs, the government have embarked on a program called the GLC Transformation Program. Aimed to project sustainable lift to the current trajectory of GLC performance, the GLC Transformation Program is in line to improving Malaysia's ability to achieve Vision 2020. That Malaysia must be a comprehensively developed nation economically, politically, socially and culturally by the year 2020. Established in January 2015, the GLC Transformation Program is currently in the next phase of a progressing passage, ultimately focusing on sustainable longer-term benefit. It is estimated that high-performing GLCs could, in the next 5 to 7 years, contribute a potential upside of more than 300 billion ringgit in market capitalization. National Development Foundation, performance focus and the management of governance, shareholder value and stakeholder management are the three key principles that have been identified to this GLC transformation program. The rise of GLCs benefit all stakeholders, such as providing better and quality services for customers, enhance employment in a more vibrant and dynamic GLC, as well as increasing transparency favouring higher value for money suppliers, with reduced levels of leakages and inefficiencies, and better skilled and highly competitive Bumiputras within the continued development of this community. No doubt, GLCs contribute greatly to the nation's well-being in so many ways, not just for now, but also in the future for all Malaysians. Now with us today, it is an honour to have Muhammad Razlan Mohamad, the CEO of Malaysian Rating Corporation Berhad, or MARC, or MARC. Welcome to the inaugural show of Tribute to GLCs. Razlan?
Thank you.
Well, okay, GLCs, let's look at the definition. Now, GLCs are generally defined as commercially driven organizations where the government exerts significant control. Now, currently, GLCs represent 36% and 54% of the market capitalization of Bursa Malaysia and the FBM KLCI at 386 billion ringgit. Now, just for the benefit of our viewers, market capitalization is the number of shares multiplied by the current price of those shares on the stock market. Now, under the GLC transformation program, which we just saw, the GLCs had three objectives to achieve. Number one, becoming regional champions, pace setters to help Malaysia achieve 2020 ambition. Number two, support nation building, where they actively shape the national agenda. And number three, elevate from well-governed companies to strong, responsible and great model institutions. Now, let's focus on the first objective, which is to become regional champions. We have seen that become a reality, where among the banking GLCs that have gone regional, Maybank and CIMB. Now, in your opinion, Razlan, what are the challenges faced by the banking GLCs in achieving this?
First and foremost, thank you, Nizam, for having me here. To answer your first question on the challenges that is faced by the banking GLCs, I believe the challenges are not only faced by the banking GLCs, but the other corporate GLCs as well. And these challenges in going regional and international are no different than that faced by the domestic private entities. The GLCs have to be content with the local competition in the overseas market, for example. These are new market which they will be faced with a different set of regulations and business practices.
I'm sure trust plays a big role as well.
Exactly. And then there's another pivotal factor, which is the uncertainties in terms of the political as well as the regulatory environment. Okay. And this will introduce a new host of risks to the GLCs, which we call geopolitical risks, as well as the foreign exchange risk. And lastly, I think I've touched on the legal system. Some of those in the emerging markets, the legal systems are not as well developed as those in a more developed market. And also, developing and acquiring leadership talent in the overseas market could prove to be a challenge to these GLCs.
Now let's talk briefly about MARC. You have been, MARC, Malaysian Rating Corporation Berhad, is a pioneering Islamic rating agency where you, at the helm of it, have been considered a key player in the Malaysian Islamic financial services industry. Now in 2014, MARC won the Best Islamic Rating Agency by the prestigious Global Islamic Finance Awards in Dubai. Now, can you talk more about that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, thanks for the question, because I would like to elaborate that. Actually, MARC started operations in 1996. Therefore, by next year, 2016, will be our 20th year anniversary of operating here in Malaysia. So over the years, we have grown a lot. We have contributed immensely to the development and growth of the debt capital market. When I talk about the debt capital market, it's basically the bond and the sukuk market. You mentioned earlier that the GLCs represent about 36% of the market cap of the Bursa. But just take 5 years ago, from 2010 to year to date, out of the 470 billions of new bonds and sukuk issuances, about close to 60% or 59%, or equivalent to 277 billions worth of bonds, sukuk, are actually issued by GLCs in our market. Okay, so I think we have been rating these papers. We are the independent provider of the benchmark of the relative credit quality of these papers. So, in essence, we have the expertise, to evaluate where the GLC has transformed since the beginning of the time.
Now, in the report card, which the GLC just graduated from, one of the contributing factors was the GLCs played a key role and contributed a lot to the growth of the sukuk market by pioneering the issuance of landmark innovative sukuk. So, how have the GLCs contributed in the sukuk market?
Right. Okay. If you notice, actually, our market owe a lot to this GLC to contribute to the development of our sukuk market, such that now I believe Malaysia is the biggest sukuk market in the world, representing about 55% of the global sukuk outstanding in the world.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and you know that this growth will not happen without the what they call intervention or aided by the GLCs, because first and foremost, the GLC's preferred form of funding is by way of Islamic financing, in the sukuk market, and they have a favorable access to the market, and as well they lead in the innovation in the sukuk market. I give you an example. Until to date, there is no single corporate that has issued the largest sukuk in the world other than Plus, because a few years ago, which MARC rated Plus sukuk, they issued 23 billion ringgit worth of sukuk to the market, and to date that issue remains the single largest issuance by a single corporate in the world. So a lot of innovation also comes in the sukuk market because of the GLCs.
Wonderful. Let's talk. Well, we'll take a short break for now. Let's talk about the government participation in GLCs. Stay with us. Welcome back to Tribute to GLCs. Now here's a short snippet on government-linked companies and the purpose of their establishment.
Cultivating national champions in driving the prosperity of the country's economy has always been the top priority and the drive for the government. To be able to flourish continuously, government-linked companies or GLCs and government investment-linked companies or GLICs play the key role in the development of the Malaysian economy. Government-linked companies or GLCs are companies with a key commercial goal in which the Malaysian government has a direct controlling stake. In controlling stakes, it means that aside from having percentage ownership, the government also plays a role in appointing board members, senior management, and making major decisions on procurement, as well as strategizing operations either directly or through government investment companies or GLICs. With this significant role in building the nation, GLCs have been supporting the country's economic growth with a total of 62.7 billion ringgit tax money for the past decade by the top 20 large GLCs or G20. And within this 10 years from 2004 to 2014, the leading GLCs has returned an astounding amount of 108.6 billion ringgit in dividends to shareholders, which includes the government, and with the eventual beneficiary being the rakyat or the people of Malaysia. The G20 companies are controlled by 5 government-linked investment companies, GLICs. Over the years, with various mergers and demergers, as well as other corporate exercises, the 20 GLCs now stand at 17 companies. With the countless competitors racing to the peak, GLCs are expected to be at par and more, not just nationally but to emerge as champions in the region.
We're back to Tribute to GLC with our esteemed guest, Mohamed Razlan Mohamed. Now, Mohamed Razlan, the banking sector is the barometer of the economy, and among the 17 GLCs, there are 5 banking or financial institutions, namely Maybank, CIMB, AFIN, MBSB, and BIMB. Now, let's just a recap of the definition of GLCs. There are commercially driven organizations where the government exerts significant control. Now, in your opinion, do you think that government participation in the banking GLCs should be enhanced, or do you think that they should be reduced?
Okay. Again, not to comment specifically on the banking GLCs only, but this also applies to the GLCs in general. Okay? I think GLCs now are run on a commercial basis with a very strong focus on the bottom line, basically. You know, so I think they also compete in the private sector equally, as well as, like for example, bank, they compete with a domestic owned bank as well as foreign banks in this market. To me, maintaining a level playing field for the GLC is vis-à-vis the private enterprise is a key issue here, not so much the minimum ownership level by the government in these GLCs. So I think we have to be practical here, that, you know, we have to, the policymakers must ensure that there is a level playing field so that the GLCs can compete equally with the private sector. And therefore, you know, when they become very high-performing entities, they become a high-performing entities on their own accord, based on their own merit. So for us, as a credit rating agency, we have rated many government-linked companies as well as the private sectors. And true, you know, where they have transformed now is because of their own accord, not so much because of support or, you know, operating under the cocoon of, you know, patronage and that kind of thing. So we have real world-class GLCs now. For example, the banking group like Maybank and CIMB, you know, they have proven themselves to be a strong local champion. Therefore, it's rightfully so that they can go regional as well as international, you know, to extend the growth to the next phase of the operation.
Well, that was the GLCs in general. What about the government-linked investment companies? Now, what do you think? Do you think that the institutional shareholding of GLICs in GLCs, should they be enhanced or should they be reduced?
Let us appreciate the fact that, you know, when this GLCs has been groomed to become a high-performance entities, it's going to be very difficult for these GLICs, the government-linked investment companies, to divest the stake in these companies. Because A, you have to understand, even if they divest this very good investment, which provide them a good return in a well-operating company, where can they get the replacement investment? Okay, that's one thing. Okay, you know, so this will prove to be quite a challenge. Although, I think Putrajaya GLC Transformation Committee in 2011 has announced that, gradually they are committed to reducing this, the GLIC stakes in GLCs over time. And I believe, they have a program. But again, you cannot do something, reduce your ownership in GLC for the sake of reducing the ownership. It has to be done in a systematic manner.
Okay. Now let's talk about the GLCs that have gone international. Now we have under our belt Battersea Power Project in London. By the consortium of Sime Darby, SB Setia, and EPF. We also have MAHB also has operations in Turkey and India. And UAM also has the Shuaibah Power and Water Project in Saudi Arabia. Now, what are the challenges that these GLCs face in going regional, in this case international?
Yeah, I've already basically elaborated on that. I think regionalization is not an end to itself.
Okay.
It has to be backed by a solid foundation of long-term business development strategy.
Okay.
I think it is wrong for any companies, for that matter, to go regional for the sake of going regional.
Yes.
Yeah, I kept on saying this. You have to answer this question: that can one become a regional champion without becoming a local champion first? Okay, that's the first thing. And then you must ensure that your domestic operation already have a solid foundation. How do you grow this business? You know that the overseas operation, it must make sense that it can complement your local operation. And we've seen an example like a technology company like Axiata. They've gone regional because they believe that they can complement and leverage on the technology that they have in Malaysia, in this ASEAN region, for example. Okay. And then local competition, again, that's a big factor. You really must size up your competitors there. You must have the strength and the stamina to compete in the foreign soil, for example. Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about the stamina and the future of GLCs. We'll take another short break. We'll be back with the future of GLCs and their contribution to Malaysians. Stay with us. Welcome back to Tribute to GLC with our esteemed guest, Muhammad Razlan Mohamad. Now, Razlan, just before the break, we talked about the stamina of the GLCs. Now, moving forward from 2015 and beyond, one of the challenges faced by the GLCs is, of course, the tougher external environment. Now, we are also looking at a volatile and uncertain global economy. Now, bringing the subject matter closer to home, let's talk about the ringgit. Now, the ringgit in recent times have depreciated significantly. Now, as much as, 24% year-to-date against the US dollar. Now, today it is roughly at 4.2, 4.3 plus minus against the greenback, as opposed to 3.2 a year ago. Now, in a nutshell, this has made investing overseas more expensive, leading to the GLCs, to be more inward-looking in their investments. And they have also been accused of crowding out the local market more than before. Now, what is your opinion on this?
Okay, in my opinion, while the depreciation in the ringgit, could make foreign investment more expensive, I think the exchange rate is unlikely to be the only factor that would drive the decision between an inward-looking investment or outward-looking investment. What I commented earlier was that, the case to go overseas must be grounded on a solid, defensible, long-term business development strategy. So not just only on the currency rate, of course it is a key factor. So having said that, I believe the GLCs, not so much now, just because now they're more inward-looking than before. Their operational strategy is to look at long-term growth. So, as you know, what we are facing now is a cycle. So, just like in the credit rating terms, we look at the credit risk through the cycle. We don't just look at the short-term, cycle. So I believe that there is still a compelling reason for selective outward investment by GLCs, even though it appears to be more expensive now.
I see.
And then to your second question on crowding out the local opportunities,
Yes.
because now there is a perception that GLCs are back in full force to tender all the local projects. I agree. So therefore, it appears to be crowding out the private enterprise in Malaysia. I've already said that before that it has to be a level playing field.
Okay.
You see, so GLC, even if they participate in the business opportunities locally, they have to compete on an equal footing.
Yes.
There's no preferential treatment, so forth. So if they manage to get the project, it's because based on their own merit. So there are opportunities for the private sectors, equally to the GLC also.
Now let's talk about the contribution of the GLCs. Now, currently there's a talent shortage in the country, and the GLCs have spent, what, 6 billion ringgit in their CSR projects, namely to assist the hardcore poor and providing student loans, and the most importantly is the graduate employability program, where they retrain and reskill graduates to enhance their marketability in the local job market. Now, in 2014, GLCs employed 5% of the local workforce, which is about roughly 225,000 workers. Now, what are the measures that can be taken to enhance this number? Probably what, to 10%, 500,000?
Well, I think it's a function of the opportunities as well as the growth factor. But you have to bear in mind that actually the GLCs, based on the report card, they have spent about 4 billion for the last 10 years on trainings. Not just training their own staff, but this is also extended to the staff or the vendors or suppliers who did business with the GLCs over the last 10 years. Okay. The opportunities that they provide to the local workforce, to the fresh graduate in terms of training and providing them an opportunity to move up the career ladder is immense. I believe that they should continue to do it. I mean, they have the means and resources to do it, and if they are expanding their business overseas, more so, we need more local talents to be exposed in the international arena so that they can compete effectively with the foreign companies.
Wonderful.
Okay. However, if you allow me to just make my comment on here, in order to sustain this talent in the GLC, which I'm saying that the GLC is doing, and I laud this approach, the culture of performance-based reward system must be continuously practiced by the GLCs, based on meritocracy, I believe. That's where, you can ensure the long-term sustainability of your business model.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Muhammad Razlan Muhammad, for joining us today on the inaugural show of Tribute to GLCs. It's been a pleasure having you here on the inaugural show.
Thank you, Nizam.
Well, that wraps up this edition of Tribute to GLCs. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Till then, I'm Rosmari Zamdali. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.